One of the world's most popular franchises in the history of horror, the Phantasm film series has terrified fans for generations. Well Go USA Entertainment answers the prayers of those fans with the highly anticipated release of the Phantasm Collection, a 6-disc Blu-ray box set on sale now. All 5 films in Don Coscarelli's legendary horror franchise, plus a bonus disc loaded with special features at Best Buy and Amazon.com now. Watch hours of never-before-seen material produced by Phantasm creator Don Coscarelli, featuring new interviews with cast and filmmakers as well as rare archival materials. The Phantasm Collection comes with a Phantasm Compendium, a 120-page book featuring exclusive interviews and rare behind-the-scenes photos chronicling the history and impact of the franchise, and a 21 by 27 reversible poster. Don't miss the special limited edition Phantasm Collection that has terrified fans for generations, available on Amazon and Best Buy. It's never over. Head on over to wellgousa.com for more information on Phantasm Collection in stores and online now. Boy!
Welcome to episode 47 of Shockwaves. I'm going to be talking about that set later in this episode. I'm one of your hosts, Rob G. I'm sitting here with Mr. Elric Kane.
Hello, sir.
How are you?
I'm doing good.
Great. I like your shirt, Gore Zone.
It's for good reason, in
Keep
honor
it
of our
real.
guests, keeping the gore alive.
Oh, this is true. This is great. You work
I
for a guest.
loved that we brought Gorezone back for just a short amount of time.
they were
It was
good. Very
definitely-
briefly.
It was Chris and me's it was like a passion project for us, and it came back for like 5 episodes.
You had a couple of good covers in there.
Yeah.
How many? What was it, like 5?
It was like 5
5, 6.
issues.
But no toxic. Was it toxic shock or toxic horror?
Toxic, and then there was some. Yeah, there was something else.
I dug it out. I'm going to write an article on toxic horror. Anyway, also with us, Rebekah McKendry.
What up?
Hello. And Mr. Ryan Turek.
Hello.
The smooth voice that sold you that Phantasm box.
A commercial we all believe in, which
We
is
do.
good.
This
That's
is
a good
true.
advertisement.
Absolutely. No. So first and foremost, really quickly, there's multiple ways to catch our show. Obviously on YouTube, on iTunes, people are subscribers, Stitcher, Google Play, but we have started uploading them to YouTube.
Yeah.
It is on the Blumhouse Productions YouTube page. So if you just search Blumhouse Productions, it'll come right up. You could search Shockwaves. I don't know. I don't listen to stuff on YouTube, but people do.
I do. I
someone
listen to
was-
music on YouTube all the
I
time.
do too. Yeah, I do that.
So we
Someone
just
was
wanted,
messaging us about it today.
yeah. So we wanted to make sure that it was available in that format as
And
well.
if you're
So
a
there you
diehard
go.
fan, you could edit images to play as we say the movie title. We're seeing that in
Oh,
unison.
don't encourage these people.
Somebody will do
No, they have better use of their time. Don't do
Just
that, please.
Elric's face hovering the
feel
entire
bad.
time.
That's a pretty good idea, Becca.
And writing on top of that, don't forget to leave a comment or leave a star rating or
like
leave a
it.
review. on
Thumbs up
iTunes.
that shit.
Or go to our Facebook page, Instagram, or Twitter.
Hey, we like feedback. And you
We
know
do.
where I heard some feedback?
Oh,
this
shit.
weekend at Monsterpalooza.
Oh my God.
Nice.
So
Let's
much.
talk about it. So did we all, Becky, you didn't make it.
I didn't make it.
You know, it's hilarious because I saw Ryan, I think all 3 days. I was there all 3 days. I saw Elric
their
on
first day,
Friday, and everyone asked me, where's Becca? And I'm like, Becca, I'm sure she planned to come,
Yep.
but there will be some elaborate story on Monday morning about sick kids or,
Nope.
something.
No
We'll
elaborate
derail.
story. I actually knew I wasn't going to be able to come to this one because my next few weekends, I had lost the past 2 months, shooting. My weekends had just been shooting. And then I've got conventions coming up. We've got Texas, we've got Stoker and Overlook, we've got Phoenix Comic-Con. I literally have back-to-back conventions.
busy.
So I just was like, you know what? I'm just going to take 2 weekends
That's
and
crazy.
stay home with the kids. So no elaborate story. It was family time.
I planned to
Okay.
go for an hour and a half after work. I said to myself, I could just get back an hour and a half, and I was there till closing.
I know. I
It was
lost you in
crazy.
15 minutes.
Yeah,
And you are a madman running around.
Most of it was being either sidetracked by previous guests of our show or
Yeah.
listeners. And
Yeah.
my favorite was somebody wearing a Shockwave shirt, and I was wearing the old Shockwave shirt. Somebody had the new one, and I smiled at them. They smiled at me. I walked over and go, "Hey, that's a great shirt." And she goes, "Oh, thanks."
Oh,
and I
yeah,
said,
yeah.
"I don't even have that one yet. And she says, yeah, oh, cool. And she goes, why would you? And I said, I'm on the show. And she goes, oh. I was like, wow, I was really milking that one.
Wow.
But I did see, I saw that new shirt, like 4 of them on
There's
the
a lot.
first night.
We haven't even gotten
Oh,
ours.
yeah. I don't have one yet.
But to choose, like, there's something special about choosing to wear that to something like Monster, you know,
No,
it was so
with
cool.
all those options you have.
Yeah,
you know?
that was fantastic. Someone like threw a pin in my face, not like physically threw.
Yeah.
They just were like,
I want
"Look,
to
it's a pin." I
jab
was
it
like,
in your
"That's great."
cheekbone.
Yeah,
They
no,
just
that
stamped
was.
it into my forehead.
Yeah.
It was super cool. I know Ryan and I got stopped by a lot of people, a lot more than I expected,
Yeah.
but super cool, and we really appreciate it.
No, it
However,
it was a testament to the horror community.
This is
You
the
guys
one.
fucking rock.
This is the one I want to bring up that I thought was hilarious. And sir, I forgot your name because there were literally a lot of people that jumped up to this. But you were the first person I saw as soon as I walked in Saturday. This guy came running up to me all excited. And he's like, "Hey, I love your show, but." And I got nervous because anytime somebody runs up to you, he's like, "Hey, but," you're like, "Uh-oh, where is this going to go?" But this gentleman had a very valid point. He's like, "But here's the thing." He's like, "You need to repeat the title of the movie at the very end of when you're done talking about it. Because you mention it really quickly at the beginning, and then you talk about it for a while. I'm on my car, and then you move on. And I'm like, wait, but what was that again? And I don't know where to look. And I'm like, you know what? You're totally right. Because I listen to podcasts, and I hate when they do that.
And I sometimes have to ask where I'll be like, what was the name of the movie again that you guys were just talking about?
But here's the other reason why this works well. So we're going to say the name of the title at the beginning and then at the end.
Just to remind me.
But listen, it is a good way for the rest of us to know that we are officially done talking about that title.
Yes.
You know, because sometimes we'll like jump over each other. Like, no, wait, there's one more thing. So when I repeat my title, just know that is it.
You're moving on.
to
It
you.
functions like a
The
spelling
ball is in
bee,
your
guys.
court.
And also,
What if I pull an Elric and I go, but wait,
Yeah.
I have a companion movie with that.
Yeah, that's
and
how I
wanna talk
roll.
about that.
All right, so you can do the companion one, then repeat that companion title, and then when
It's gonna
you're
fall
done,
apart
Elric,
in
I want
5
saying-
minutes, guys.
I need
Toast.
saying a little more official. So we say the final title, and then I think we say, as you were. I think we need something really official to move on, as you were, guys.
Scene.
Or we just do this.
But I will say, I wonder if we have the
Ryan
making
just
a
took a
hand
bow.
gesture.
I wonder if we have the same listeners, because the only thing we've gone back from Pure Cinema is like 5 people saying the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Saying, please repeat because there's so many titles.
Well,
I think it's
So I
just
wonder
an
if it's-
Elric thing.
No,
then.
no, it's-
It's totally an Elric.
I do talk fast.
it's a very thing. It's on a lot of like the music podcasts I listen to. They always like say what it is, play the tune, but by the time the tune's done, I'm like so engulfed in it that I'm like, wait, was that again?
That's
like,
good.
I don't
That's good
know.
feedback.
So anyway, that was a very good feedback. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it, and we're gonna try today.
It was just so much fun just to count how many people had shirts and how many people would come up for photos, and it was neat. It was just like kind of reinvigorating.
And-
It's an exciting time.
It was the biggest it's ever been. It was at the Pasadena Convention
God,
Center.
yes.
Saturday, I went Saturday morning. I brought my friend Josh Miller, who's been on our show before. He did not have a ticket, and he could not get in. It was
Whoa.
2,000 people sold
Whoa.
out.
Lord.
They were not selling anymore. The fire chief showed up
Wow.
early. They were not selling any more tickets.
And Friday was the busiest it had ever been. I heard everyone talking about
all
that.
3 days were
But
insane.
Friday was a gift.
Oh, it was great.
Friday
It was
was
great.
absolutely amazing because
Wow.
it was like walking around Comic-Con, like the calm before the storm.
Yeah.
Now, I think it's Wednesday night or Thursday night preview nights at Comic-Con. That has turned into a total clusterfuck.
Oh, really?
But-
I always loved preview night
nope,
because that was
no,
when
not
like
anymore.
you could get
Not
through
anymore.
the aisles and you
Over.
could talk to
Friday
people.
nights at Monsterpalooza, that is, I mean, and even for the dealers, I was talking to some, like the folks at Little Shop of Gore.
Love that place.
I do too. And on the thing on the last episode, I talked about these silly little canoes they made, and I went to go get a canoe, and they sold out of the Crystal Lake canoe on Friday night.
Yeah, they only had
I was
one
like,
left
what
when
the
I went.
hell?
I told them my idea for a deliverance one. They're like, ooh. I was like, okay.
But I did buy their giant VHS like wooden box.
Oh, yeah.
It
Oh,
looked
right,
like
I saw that.
Halloween.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
yeah, it was fantastic.
And I saw that you bought a Shockwaves VHS, Elric.
I did. I bought there was
And then
only
you-
one. Ryan
and
was
then you
there.
questioned why.
I questioned why I bought it for $15.
You're like, why did I buy
I
this?
felt like that was probably stupid. And then I took the one off, so it just looked like 5 in case my wife saw it. I was like, just in case.
I'm telling Selena.
It's a good thing she doesn't listen to
She
this.
doesn't.
shit.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good one. I'm just like, she doesn't know you didn't know how much I spent for Shockwaves.
I love you. You guys can go to our Facebook page. I put together like a little minute-long video.
Yeah.
And we have a great slideshow up on the site, which
Yes.
was like, it transported me there, even
Yeah,
though
I
I
had
was
Some
like
of the
a-
art. Oh my God, the Quint just looked like
Amazing. Yeah,
a
Quint
real.
was
It looked
great.
like a real human just sitting there. It was
Yeah, they have a museum. By the way, Monsterpalooza. There's so many great shows out there. Monsterpalooza is my favorite, and I think it's the best convention out
Well, it's
there.
it's evenly balanced. The
Yeah.
thing about Monsterpalooza is that it celebrates monsters in cinema and makeup effects in cinema. But at the same time, if you're just there for general horror fun, you'll get that too.
And shopping, unbelievable shopping.
Yeah, unbelievable shopping. And Tony Timpone is now officially part of the team there.
That was so great, man.
Yeah. And
Brought me back.
I think it's going to do a great service to Monsterpalooza because he was always great at getting guests and getting panels.
Yep.
And this year we saw a Cult of Chucky panel on Friday night. That was just a preview. They didn't have any footage, but man, it was so much fun. And it ties into this episode's guest. But it was great to see. I mean, they got Jennifer Tilly.
Yeah.
They got Don Mancini.
Did Tony have the suit and the Ray-Bans on?
Oh, no.
Please.
Tony didn't have the suit. He had a button-up shirt and tie with a really fancy vest.
He looked legit.
Accepted.
Really slick new haircut. I love
I've seen the haircut.
I love the new Tony.
We're all fans of the new Tony.
Yeah. I ran into him at Fantasia last year, and he was sporting a new do there.
Yeah.
But
But there were a lot of other great panels. There was a Lost Boys panel that focused on the effects team. There was a Nightmare on Elm Street panel that really drew a ginormous crowd. It was pretty fantastic.
And there's
Raji is now showing a photo of Tony. But Tony is like kind of our godfather. I mean, Becca, you've worked with him. Rob's worked with him. I've worked with him. Elric,
I read him when he was the first name I remember in horror.
Tony was my
first byline.
My interview when I went into Fangoria. Mike Gingold was actually the one who I first met and got me the interview. Right. But when I went in to do the interview, it was Tony I met with.
There's also a lot of like fringe horror guests and people like that, and a couple of them like we got to speak to and might be able to even get in as guests that we would never have been able to get through their PR people in a normal world. So hopefully that'll come through and we'll bring in some really cool, interesting voices. It is really, I agree with you, because I love Texas Frame. I got to say, not just because we're going,
great
but I have a blast there. But this is just a different thing because it's celebrating art.
That's a good segue because I did want to make sure that we mentioned that we're all going to be at Texas Frightmare.
Yes.
May 4th through the 7th, we're going to be hosting panels. The entire team is going to be hosting panels. There's going to be a table.
Yeah, we have
we're
a
going to
booth.
be selling
we're
shirts.
going to be selling shirts and a couple of our personal projects.
Yeah, I'm bringing my DVDs.
I'm selling stuff
my
on
bags.
my shelf.
Now, by the way, Elric is coming.
I'm going to be selling the shirt off my back.
I have to reiterate that Elric is coming a day late because he's got a wedding. Because someone very concerned reached out to me saying, wait, is it not all of you? Is Elric not going? Because they didn't see you initially on some sort of list. I'm like, no. You will be there, but I think...
I will be there because one of the things I get to do is like fulfill a lifehood dream.
Elric and
I get to talk to Suspiria.
Yeah, Elric and I are co-hosting the
Dario.
Suspiria panel.
Pretty cool.
It's going to be awesome.
I was hoping to do just Dario, but I'll definitely settle for Suspiria. That'll be fun.
I'll break it down on our Instagram.
Yeah, we'll tell everyone what we're doing.
Yeah, what we're going to be doing.
But I'll be there all of Saturday, all of Sunday.
We're doing trivia. We've got a live show where we're going to be doing kind of a discussion. It's going to be awesome.
It's going to be fun.
Yeah.
I cannot wait.
A lot of good stuff.
I plan to beat everybody at pool again. And
I don't have a memory of that.
See, the good thing about Elric not being there Friday...
totally killed you at pool.
Maybe, I don't know.
I totally did.
I thought Becca said she was going to be hanging out by the pool. And I was like, I got you beat.
I'm always pretty drunk at Texas Frightmare. I got to be honest. That's my place to go
killed you
wild.
at pool last time. How do you not remember this?
That's the good thing about you not being there Friday night is that I know I won't get obliterated because you won't be there, that's usually what happens the first night.
Who's the guy who played the sinister monster? You must know that. Who played the sinister creature?
Bagul?
The actor.
Okay. Whoever he was... He was plastered, and I was like drinking with next to him the whole time, and that guy was gone. It was special.
Wow.
All right,
intense.
let's talk movies, guys.
Yeah.
I've seen a couple. I'm going to kick us off straight from Monsterpalooza's floor. There were tables set up for Severin Films. Our friend David Gregory, who was on the show, who convinced me to buy things on DVD.
Did you get The Other Hell?
I do have that. Yes.
Okay,
yes,
that's
yes.
the Nun
I
one.
bought
I'm
a stack
excited
of
to
stuff
see it.
from them, but it's by Bruno Mattei, so I don't know what's.
I'm
excited. I'm just not that excited.
Give it a bit. Okay, yeah, he's a little rough around the edges.
But I bought a bunch of stuff from him and Vinegar Syndrome, who I never know when their titles are out. So to see their table there finally. And I unloaded on things that I probably would never. And I made sure to buy stuff that you didn't.
So we can trade off.
Exactly.
I was agonizing over that table because I kept asking
me
them,
too.
well, is this one really worth me buying?
Exactly.
And then I found Elijah Drenner, who had worked on all the extras, said, tell me which ones I don't need.
Yes.
And so I actually feel pretty good at the end of
I
it.
Which ones did you guys pick up?
Well, I got WITCHTRAP, which just came out. It's a 1989 movie by Kevin Tenney, the guy who did Night of the Demons and Witchboard.
Yep.
Why have I seen
sequel.
WitchTrap 2? I feel like there's...
Is there a 2 or is there...
You might be thinking Witchboard 2, which is awesome.
No.
I do like
He did both of those.
Yeah,
those
I
are
like
better.
that too.
I swear.
Witch crap.
No, I swear there's a witch trap. I have to look this up.
There probably is, but this was post Night of the Demons and post Witchboard, but before Witchboard 2.
Oh, weird.
And it's funny because the title card that comes up, I think, is The Presence. It actually has a different title when you put the film on. You know what's interesting is now that I've seen all these movies, Kevin Tenney definitely has a specific style that is you know, that Night of the Demons, Witchboard. WitchTrap is really silly, a silly 80s movie, even though it was right at the end of the 80s, where basically, and he plays the character that like sets up all the, he has a house that's supposedly haunted and nobody wants to stay there. So he's sending a team of various different people. Like I think one guy's like a detective and another is a paranormal investigator. One's a psychic to go there and figure out what the hell's going on in the house. So it's, you know, technically like a haunted house thing by way of, you know, the director of Night of the Demons, because it feels a lot like Demons.
There is not a Witch Trap 2. I think I'm merging Witchboard and Evil Dead Trap somewhere in my brain.
Yes, there's lots of witch somethings.
Yeah, so now I'm excited to see
There's
Witch
a lot
Trap.
of dead somethings.
But you know, it was a lot of fun. It's really goofy. I mean, I posted a little clip. I've never seen because there's like a supernatural element to it. So Linnea Quigley's in it, who's
nice.
reprising. You know,
I saw her death on your Instagram.
Yes, and she has a death where she's taking a shower and the shower head is possessed for a second and just like goes bloop and stabs her in the throat.
Punches her in the throat.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
and like punctures her and like she's like ah! And then dies. And you're like, well, I've never seen that shower death before.
She does die interestingly in most movies. Like think about Silent Night, Deadly Night. That's a pretty radical death.
Yeah, it's pretty memorable.
Yeah.
So it is. If that sounds fun to you, what I just described, that Linnea Quigley death, that is what this movie is. Yes, it's very much that. So I had fun with it. I didn't love it. I didn't hate it, but it is a very, very fun movie. And yeah, Kevin Tenney's got his own sort of style, so I really dug that one. That was Witch Trap.
Witch Trap.
See what I did there? Mm-hmm.
As you were.
ready? Mm-hmm. As you were.
As you were. I haven't gotten to any of them yet this week because the one I'm most excited about, the one that got me, is called Psycho Cop 2. And I kept saying, do you have to see Psycho Cop 1? They go, hell no, don't watch that. This movie has everything, and I'm like, all right, I'm buying it.
No.
But I also got Joe Spinell's last movie that was thought to be lost and unfinished called The Undertaker, and it's the coolest box. He's in a coffin that's like a slipcase, but I guess they found the elements to finish it. So I'll report on that one as soon as I'm back. I'm away next week because I'll be at Tribeca, so I'll be able to report back a couple of films from there. This week, I saw a movie called The Void.
Oh, so did I.
Becca saw this too.
I did too.
Okay, here we go. Round table.
Let's
I'm the
discuss
only one that
this one.
did.
Let me just say,
Sell it to me,
I
guys.
love all the movies this film rips off.
That's exactly what I said in the staff meeting today. I was like, it feels like 9 other films that I really liked, and I'm not sure how I feel about it.
Some of them weighted too heavily. Like the last act is so Hellraiser that it actually upset me a bit.
Hellraiser. It's
The guy, he becomes literally
He
Hellraiser.
is literally
He's like,
Frank.
Kirsty. I mean, it's literally
Yes,
Frank.
yeah.
But here's the thing. I watched it with someone, we really want to like this, and I know so many people love this movie right now, so even looking at people's responses, I felt like a bit of an asshole on my way here, thinking I can't be too positive about this, because for me, this is the kind of movie that's like, I feel like these guys are capable using their talent that clearly is there, because there's a lot of great stuff going on filmmaking wise, but just give me some characters to care about, and then give me an original story, because it just felt like a pastiche of things that I like.
What's the scoop of this movie? Because
So
I haven't
on
heard of
sex,
it at
guys.
all,
You know, it
but it
played-
just came out of nowhere.
Is that Beyond Fest?
It was
last
at
year?
Beyond
Beyond
Fest
Fest?
last
Played
year.
at Beyond Fest. It played at Fantastic Fest before that.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
basically, it was
Canadian, right?
Astron 6. They did the Stepfather's Day. They did the Editor.
Oh, it's those guys.
And they did
Okay.
Manboard.
but this is their shot at doing something a little bit less tongue in cheek.
Definitely
and a
so.
little
Yeah,
bit
It's not much
Editor
humor
is
at all,
so
really.
wink, wink.
homage.
Yeah.
This isn't funny in any capacity, which most of their stuff is. But what I said today when I was talking about it with the staff was exactly what you said, Elric, where the whole time I was going, okay, this feels like Assault on Precinct 13. Now it feels
That's the
like it's
setup,
Lovecraft. Now it feels like The Thing. Okay, now we're getting into a little bit more of
Prince of Darkness.
Prince of
The
Darkness.
Beyond,
Yeah,
Hellraiser.
it's like it's
I kind of would have
referencing
liked more of
anything.
Prince of Darkness. I went into it hearing a lot of Carpenter references, but then when I watched it, I didn't actually feel
I felt The
Carpenter
Thing at
references.
points.
A little bit of Thing with creature stuff. And look, I think some people, this is that kind of movie that if you're looking for just fun and stuff to happen with horror, I do think that will satisfy you. But if you're looking to like feel something from your horror, whatever that means to you, I don't think it satisfies that. It definitely, missed it for me. My first thought was like kind of like sci-fi, like if Sci-Fi Channel was remaking all my favorite movies. that's how I viewed it. Like, oh, we'll take all these, but we'll do it that way.
Yeah.
That quick and dirty, you know, I don't know.
The acting was definitely spotty for me. And like, if you'd asked me who the characters were and like what their MO was, honestly, the characters were just kind of bland. Like, I didn't get into those as much. But the effects were crazy.
There's
and
some
so
great stuff
I
in
spent
there.
the whole time just like marveling at the monsters and the gore and things like that. But yeah, it was very showy with little substance. The sound, I kept, because the kids were sleeping, I kept having to ride the sound the whole time where like they would whisper something and then there'd be a loud bang. And
Well, that was a weird thing. Here's my story with it. I watched it at Fantastic Fest last year, and they played it at midnight, and old man Turek is just having a really rough time doing midnight movies these days. So I watched it, and it just like there was a feeling about it that it was just kind of putting me into this, not state of boredom, but I was just starting to feel the effects of being really fucking tired. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to table any assessment that I have for The Void until later on, until I get to see it in a proper environment. That is not me super tired, not the Alamo Drafthouse, I mean. And so I rented it in iTunes. There was something wrong with the mix because I really had to crank the volume up.
I thought there was something wrong with mine too. Maybe that's just the movie, because I'd have to turn it up and then like something would fall or somebody would break a window and then I'd be like, oh fuck, my whole neighborhood's up now.
Sometimes
and I have
the
to turn it back
dialogue
down.
will be too low compared to the music.
It was dialed low,
Yeah,
yeah.
it was a weird sound mix.
I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, I like the ambition and I like what they were trying to make, but I just wish they had put a lot more care into the script, and a little bit more care into the execution of some of those scenes that they so eloquently really poured a lot of heart and soul and latex and goop and gore into.
Yeah.
There's one scene in particular. There was a character who's going through this like whole dialogue sequence. Meanwhile, something is creeping up behind him, and then the next thing you know, he just gets dragged away. But it didn't feel like
You're
a
seeing the
moment.
result, not the moment.
You're seeing the
I noticed that a couple times, and I also they have
there was a character who completely disappeared as well, and
yeah,
I
it's
went
a little bit of that, yeah,
very weird.
There's this buildup in the imagery and some of the things you could see without being a spoiler, like on the poster. There's this cult-looking thing with a black triangle. That stuff's fucking fascinating.
And it was
if they had doubled down on that by the end. I don't even know what the cult played in this movie. All I know is because it becomes a typical main bad guy kind of movie. And I'm like, oh, but you built up such kind of an intriguing idea around it. Assault on Precinct 13 with a cult surrounding you would be enough to make a movie about.
And the
you
cult
don't need 10 other
was
movies.
the scariest part. Like that for me, I mean, like, yeah, the monsters are scary and gooey and whatnot, and you can bash so many heads in or whatnot. But just him walking to the parking lot and seeing that cult member, 100 yards away.
That's an interesting movie in itself, I think.
Scary.
And just to give a little context to our listeners, the whole movie is set in this hospital that suffered like some sort of structure fire and is now being shut down. And this cop has come across this guy who is on the run from somebody, and he's got to bring him to the hospital. And this is the nearest hospital, and he's followed by this cult. And of course, this guy that the cop has picked up has brought something with him. There's like some sort of thing otherworldly, Lovecraftian thing going on that's affecting some of the people within the hospital. So it not only becomes a siege movie, but a terror from within movie.
Yeah.
And there's like a giant behemoth monster thing that reminded me a
There's
little
a
bit
couple.
I mean, it reminded me of like a lot of things, but I liked what they were going for. And that's why I would recommend it. I think every horror fan should at least give it a crack.
See it.
Try it out, but go in understanding that this is a movie with lots of warts, and it's not entirely perfect. Because I'm looking at like our Instagram, I'm looking at like Twitter, and I see all these people raving about it.
A lot of people love it.
That's just what I needed, and it's like, is it really just what you needed? Because I came out kind of a little bit disappointed, but again, I applaud the two filmmakers, Jeremy Gillespie and Steven Kostansky, for at least taking a crack at it.
I mean, like no one realizes how hard it is to do practical effects on camera, and to be able to do those now. I mean, I'm sure that everybody was like, "Oh no, let's just digitize it." And to see those practicals, it's so impressive and refreshing.
And I think that that ambition, fought a lot against with the budget they had, and I think that those moments
even more against the script. I think you're doing something on one side without having put all the work on the other side. Right. I think for some of you, and I think some of you are reacting this way, and some of our shocker listeners, out of a boredom with a kind of horror that has become popular, and that probably I am the biggest proponent of loving, which is like a slow burn horror, which has a big ending but not very much happening maybe on the build up to that, but because it's spending a lot of time on character when it's good, whether it's the Babadook Babadook, The Witch, whatever the film is, this is like the antithesis of this, where it's really about giving you a lot lot of things happening.
There's tentacles within like 10 minutes.
Exactly. So for some people, this is the kind of horror you're going to crave. And so on that level, that's why I didn't want to bash it from the from an objective viewpoint, but from a personal, I was pretty disappointed.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so that's just me as a horror viewer.
Totally.
Yeah.
No, I agree completely.
And that was The Void. Touche.
Nice. Becca?
So in addition to The Void, I watched Lost Highway.
Yeah, my
which you guys just did on Pure Cinema.
We talked about neo noir, so a lot of people are just excited. We didn't really talk about it, but yeah, it's.
Now we, Dave and I watched Lost Highway because last week Dave did something on the site where he like broke down Mulholland Drive and went through the meaning and all this stuff, and like the fans got into it and it opened up a lot of discussion on the site. So he was like, "This week I'm going to do Lost Highway," and Lost Highway. When I'd seen it, I had not seen this movie since college when it first came out, and it was not my favorite Lynch film. I had always preferred Mulholland Drive and Wild at Heart and some of his other ones, but it scared me. Like, I remember being kind of traumatized by it the first time I saw it and not sleeping that night.
And every one of you bought that damn soundtrack.
Yes. Oh my God.
Yeah.
That is
totally.
like
That was, Lost Highway was what introduced me to Rammstein.
Yes,
I mean,
yes.
hell yeah.
The world to Rammstein.
So yeah, Lost Highway again, it definitely a lot more was clear on the second time, and I was able to pick up a lot of the interesting nuances that I didn't pick up before, like the number of people who look up at the sky in the movie. It's like, it's shocking. There are things that like I just didn't notice before. I still don't think it's as intricate, tight, and effective as Mulholland Drive, but it's so much scarier. It's just the idea
I think it is a horror
watched.
film. I mean, a lot of people were saying, why wasn't it on your noir? I think it is noirish, but I think it's a horror film.
It's a horror
I think it's his most horror movie.
It's,
of all the stuff.
Eraserhead has moments, but this one has, I was scared. That's the last film in a theater that scared me, like from all horror. Like when I was in the theater going, I don't know how to react. And the mystery man comes in, I'm like, I feel really bad. And it's very dark what I'm watching. And he has this terrifying dream where his wife has the face of
I forgot that scene. I mean, and I'm watching the movie and was just like, oh, fuck, I forgot that happened. It was terrifying.
It's a scary movie. And he uses darkness in a way that few people do. Like, a guy walks down a corridor and disappears into blackness.
Oh my gosh.
You can see his arms and then there's just blackness.
And you can still see what's going on very slightly, but it's literally like a circle of light in the middle of the screen and then blackness. And it's definitely, it's his horror film. And it's slow. That's one of the things. And it's 2.5 hours long.
And it switches character, your lead actor in the middle. So for some people, that is a big leap. Like Mulholland Drive, it does it in a very different way. Lost Highway is doing this very literal, like you've got a character, Bill Pullman, reimagining himself as a young stud before to see if he could win his wife over in that scenario, and then he still can't win her over in that. So it's kind of like our Vertigo discussion last week. I don't want to repeat that, but there's similar kinds of movies. They're dealing with that male insecurity of not ever really being able to know a woman. You can never really know your partner. It's impossible to get inside their head and feel the way they feel. So I think that can lead to certain fears for certain types of people. And Lynch has been remarried many times. I think like a lot of times.
Yes.
And so it's interesting to see him make a movie that may, again, be a very personal thing.
There's also a lot of, which I didn't pick up in the 90s when I first saw this, but a lot of paranoia about technology, about watching, about cell phones. It's just like, and
his memory. He doesn't want things videotaped because he wants to remember them the way he remembers them.
And while we were watching it, Dave came up with this theory, which actually works. You can read about it on Blumhouse.com, that he may actually have a tumor in his head. He has brain cancer. And it sounds like the dumbest theory ever, but it's somehow... It's like intricate the way that it works in. So now I'm kind of like,
I would bet that's not Lynch's intent, but I bet that could be a good way to make it more believable, like literal, what's happening. That could be a way to justify the events, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Because I think Lynch doesn't think like that. Anytime I think Stacey Lane Wilson posted on my wall this week, I think of Lynch saying about Eraserhead going, actually, Eraserhead's my most personal film. And the interviewer goes, would you like to elaborate on it? He goes, no. And I'm like, that's him in a nutshell. Like, they're just these ideas that come to him and he builds it very organically. So I don't think he always had an agenda, but it's there.
It's there.
If you read the human. And also just to double up on what you're talking about him is there's a new documentary that's coming to the Cine family, and which probably means it will tour America, called it's Lynch something, but it's basically a bio documentary about him and his life and arts. And apparently people are saying it's really cool. So it's probably good timing. And I think there's a retrospect of all his stuff happening in New York, and it might be traveling.
They talk about the cow. I was
As Inland Empire cow?
No, I was living in New York at the time when this happened. And what they did is they had these cows that they gave to all of these different people. And they gave them to all these different artists. And you were supposed to decorate the cow, and then they would bring it back to New York City and put them all around the city. And I remember seeing them various places.
That, yeah.
So they were just kind of asking for it. They gave one to David Lynch, who eviscerated the cow, wrote "Eat My Fear" on it in shit, and then gave it back to them. And they were like, "We can't put this on the street."
My fear in shit.
They eat my fear in shit. And they ended up putting it in some museum in New York. But I just remember the cow incident.
One of his great unmade projects, he has a couple. Ronnie Rocket's like a real famous one, but his other one is called, written by the Twin Peaks writer, One Something Bubble. I can't remember. I read the script once. It is about an entire town that all the humans' minds are in the cows and all the cows' brains are in humans. So the people just sit around on their bench press kind of blankly staring out at the world because they're cows. And I read it once. It's a long time, so I'm probably butchering it, but it's the most ludicrous thing. And somehow it's funny, but you're like, I don't know if that needed to get made. You know? God bless you, David.
Like the vomiting on the subway, Snigman.
Wow. I'm excited. As soon as I saw you were watching it, because it's not on Blu-ray here in America.
No, it's so bizarre.
I ordered the UK Blu-ray of it because it was pretty cheap.
I bet you a Criterion one will happen eventually.
Eventually, yeah. Sure.
We subscribed because when we decided we were going to watch it that night, we were immediately like, "Oh, it must be on Amazon, and we can rent it for $2." Not on Amazon to rent for $2, but it is on Showtime instant streaming. So we did the 30-day free subscription because then we figure, hey, once Twin Peaks gets there, we're already subscribed, so it makes sense.
Nice.
Great movie.
What was that movie?
Lost
Highway.
Right on.
Right.
One of the movies that I saw that I've been tracking over the last 2 weeks, it popped up on iTunes right in like the top 10 in the horror section, is something called Dig Two Graves.
Oh.
It's a film directed by Hunter Adams. It was made in 2014, apparently, and hit the festival circuit, won a few awards, and is now getting a proper release. The film has Ted Levine in it, and it follows a young girl who is grieving over the death of her brother due to a kind of just a kids playing. Like her brother jumps off a cliff into a lake and obviously smacks his head somewhere along the rocky bottom. And she's approached later on by these three strangers who they're kind of like just backwoods dudes. They got kind of like a voodoo quality to them. And they offer her the chance to see her brother again, but it comes with a price, and she's got to kill somebody. And it was a really, really interesting layered movie. It's not scary at all. It's not a scary film, but it's on the genre bubble and is more of just a really thick, heavy mystery about how these three strangers are interconnected with Ted Levine, who is the girl's grandfather, who is also the sheriff of the town, and how something that he had done in his past with the former sheriff is connected with these three guys and what they're up to.
Ties into Buffalo Bill, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And it's an interesting little movie. To me, when I got done watching it, it felt like I had just watched some really heavy book adaptation. And because it just felt like there was a lot more going on behind the scenes with every single one of these characters. And it's just got this kind of rural gothic vibe to it that was interesting. But I think, for those who kind of like slow burns, like their mystery, don't want necessarily a whole lot of scares, but just something that just felt like a warm blanket on a rainy day kind of movie. It's just something you just kind of settle in and let it coast along. It was interesting. It was
and then chase it with the void. So lots.
And then chase it, yeah, exactly. Great performances all around, but definitely just one of those interesting iTunes finds. And that was Dig Two Graves.
See, I didn't know you were done.
No, I'm going to add to this whole comment is I had forgotten what the name of the film was by the time I finished.
It's true. I had to.
My brain was literally, I wonder what that was called.
We're on top of it. And you should ask. Speak
pretty
up,
good.
Elric. Don't
pretty
be,
good.
Here's another one I picked up from Vinegar Syndrome that I never even heard of this. But I was, mixing, matching, and figuring stuff out. And basically, I forgot the guy that was helping me, but he's like, if you get this film, you have a choice of a high five, a hug, or he was giving me all these choices. It was Hobgoblins. So I bought What are you laughing at, Ryan?
They're gray and fuzzy.
Is this would you call this a rip-off movie from Gremlins and everything?
Yeah. It was definitely in the same vein as Gremlins, Ghoulies.
Yes.
Yeah.
Although
Troll.
the irony is technically it was written before Gremlins. according the guy that wrote and directed is a guy named Rick Sloan, who is on all the special features.
Yes, but did hobgoblins come first, or did gremlins as a creature?
No, the gremlin. I mean,
the gremlins first?
Doesn't matter when the script came. Well, actually,
I'm talking about the monster themselves.
Yeah. Well, the monsters are all right. So it's if you had to compare it to anything, it feels like a long lost cousin to the Ghoulies movies. And I don't really like the first Ghoulies, but I actually love Ghoulies 2, the one that takes place in the it's like a carnival.
Yeah, directed by the dad, right? Albert Band?
Yeah. So this is very much in line with Ghoulies 2. It is silly and goofy, and it's basically this guy that works at a major studio as a security guard, like an older gentleman, and he's looking for a younger guy to work with him at the studios as security. And the only rule is do not go into this particular film vault. And the reason being is because this older gentleman that's been there for like 30 years has trapped and captured a bunch of hobgoblins in there.
Of course.
Wow. So of course, at some point, I think there's somebody that's trying to rob them. He runs into the studio, goes down there, opens the door. The hobgoblins get out. They literally look like a bunch of little fuzzy ghoulies, like a cross between that and gremlins. And I mean, they're ridiculous and ludicrous. But what's fun about them and what makes this stand out a little bit more is that basically what happens is when they're not like gremlins or anything where they like attack and eat you, but I guess they release some sort of, maybe it's a pheromone or a chemical. When they're around you, they make you lose your inhibitions and you start acting out your biggest desires.
Is there sexy time, Rob?
There is a little sexy time. Yeah. Like literally and that's the funny thing is it also doubles as like the cheesiest 80s comedy you could ever think of, where it's, the main character's got a girlfriend who's a little bit of a prude, but once she's around the hobgoblins, now she's at a strip club run by, what's his name? Is it Dwayne Whittaker? The guy Johnson from Feast and Leatherface, like that guy, that creepy guy. He's the doorman at this like strip club that now all of a sudden she's like this new personality or whatever. But it's goofy. It's a lot of, I enjoyed it more than Witch Trap because I actually like had fun watching it. And then there's tons of cool special features. And it was the special features is fantastic because there's an interview with the guy, Rick Sloan. And even though he wrote it really, really early in his career, he made a few little things. Then he made this. And he got his success directing the Vice Academy movies. He did 6 of those in a row. But what's fascinating is he made Hobgoblins, didn't think much of it at all, because of course his original script is you never actually saw them. They were like, the whole idea was there's something like in the dark, there were like little glowing eyes. And when you were around them, it was all the psychological aspect of it. They ended up bringing in Kenneth Hall, who had done, I think, Ghoulies and Puppet Master and all that stuff, to do these creatures. But his whole history is fascinating. He made this movie, and for whatever reason, because it was that key period where everyone was looking for VHS content, he got tremendous offers from everybody, including Charles Band, who desperately wanted the film, and at one point offered him like a 10-picture deal. Wow. And he even said he did the math, and he's like, I'm honestly making more money now doing individual movies than I would have doing 10 for Charles Band. So he's like, I just didn't do it. I just did a bunch of Vice Academy movies. So the point is, the movie itself is a lot of fun. A lot of the behind the scenes is equally as interesting. And I just had a blast with it. And did they? No, and I think not an official one.
It was also, this was on Mystery Science Theater 3000. I remember seeing it on that.
That is what it's famous for, is the Mystery Science thing. So that was Hobgoblins.
I want to see that. Oh, yes.
Elric?
We need to keep that bow going because it makes me giggle.
Hobgoblins 2, 2009 direct-to-DVD sequel. Written and directed by Rick Sloan.
Get out of here. See, I didn't know that. I didn't know
decades
a
later.
Hobgoblin with a little Girl Scout in the middle.
Whoa. I'm sure
they're creepy.
The three-way.
I'm sure it can't possibly be as good. Well, like the weird thing is, well, here's the thing, because I don't think it's video. I think it is film. Like even bad movies from the 80s, because of the way they were shot, they still have that charm to them. Whereas I see something in 2009 that's shot on video or digital.
It's also because they were all shot on film.
Crappy.
There was no other option.
Yeah.
I feel the same way about 70s stuff. Like I can watch kind of the shittiest grindhouse films, but if they're shot on film, I can watch it. If I watch stuff that was shot now on like really crap video, I can't do it.
Elvira tackled Hobgoblins too.
Oh, she did?
I'll watch the Elvira version.
No, watch Hobgoblins 1, Ryan.
No, I'm saying she presented Hobgoblins.
I see. Okay, all right, gotcha.
So from the Shudder, I went to the Swedish series JORDSKOTT.
Oh.
and I figure that's how it's pronounced, but I have no idea. I'm a bit of a sucker for these like new Shudder series that just nothing about.
JORDSKOTT?
It's called JORDSKOTT. It's like just JORDSKOTT or whatever it is. It's a Swedish word. It was kind of an intriguing image came up. It's their newest series. There's 2 episodes so far. They're an hour each, and it said a new episode will come every once a week from here on. I was weighing it up between the thing about streaming. I don't know if you guys are like this because I buy all these great Blu-rays, but if I'm sitting there and there's something new on streaming, I always put the streaming on first.
I do too. I'm so lazy.
As if it's real work to put on a Blu-ray. It's ridiculous.
I have a stack. I call it my watch stack, right above the television, on the bookshelf right above the television, so that like I sit down and I'm staring at the shit I need to watch, but I'm still just like, I've never heard of this, but it's streaming on Netflix, so let's just do that.
But this is interesting. I would say it's incredibly slow. I'm a big fan of shows like The Killing. There's a lot of American shows that have been remakes of foreign shows that I've really enjoyed. I love those kind of slow, intriguing mysteries. This has kind of it ticks all those boxes. It's almost a touch too slow for me at this stage, but it might be about to pick up. Basically, it opens with a pretty intense scene of a man holding his own wife hostage with a shotgun, and he wants custody of his daughter, and she's freaking out. And a female cop is trying to talk him down, and she's like, "Don't shoot your wife. If you're going to shoot someone, shoot me." And he literally blows her away in the first minute. You're like, "Whoa!" And you think she's dead, but she's wearing a bulletproof vest. And then you find out that she had lost her daughter. We don't really know how yet. And her father dies. She goes back to a small town that she's from, and basically starts to realize other kids the same age as her daughter have started going missing under very similar circumstances. And she starts opening the puzzle box of the small town to try to figure out what has happened. And it becomes, within the first episode, it starts to be linked to the forest and not respecting the forest. And we still don't, even in 2 episodes in, I don't know exactly what the horror is going to be, but there's a creeping element of the supernatural that is entering. So it's definitely going to go that way. It's not going to be a straight procedural, even though so far it's been pretty straight procedural. So for some of you, I guarantee it would be a little too slow. But I'll kind of report back maybe once I see the 3rd and see where it takes us. What was the Irish film last year that was pretty solid with the woods and they had their baby and
not Changeling.
The Hallow?
The Hallow.
Yeah. I'm wondering. I don't think it'll be as that literal with like monsters necessarily, but I think there's a connection. It seems like maybe people who get cursed or touched by this thing maybe start becoming kind of foresty. Like I saw a daughter with fingers that kind of went into the soil and looked like they have like roots on them. So I'm curious where it's going, but after 2 episodes, almost impossible to tell, except that it's going to take its time and it looks great and it's solid drama. But I love that Shudder's getting these like unique, weird shows, and I love. It goes back to my not liking trailers too much. Like just something pops up one day, and it's up to you whether you're going to take the risk on it or not. It's a fun way to watch new material, I think. So I'm kind of on the fence right now, but I'm leaning towards thinking it might be pretty cool. And that's
JORDSKOTT.
Maybe.
JORDSKOTT. Who knows? On the it's streaming on Netflix category, I watched Tank 432.
Okay.
Which just came to Netflix a couple of weeks ago. It's produced by Ben Wheatley, British horror film about a group of mercenaries who are fighting this kind of enemy that is unseen at the beginning, and they run into a tank and they accidentally get shut inside. And so they're locked inside this tank. It's a very claustrophobic movie, and the enemy is kind of closing in around. And then you start seeing the enemy, and you realize that there's something like really fucked up about the enemy. Like they look weird. Like it's definitely more than just a straight war film. I liked what the film wanted to be, but that definitely missed some things. After a while, and this isn't a spoiler, but they realize that there's kind of the enemy is inside the tank as well. There's something going on inside the tank. So it's like they're surrounded, but there's shit going on inside as well. It gets really, I'll call it Jacob's Ladder. I actually saw somebody online who said it's like Jacob's Ladder meets Dog Soldiers. And I'd say that's right, but it feels like it just fell kind of short. Like I wanted it to be more than it was, and it didn't go as far as I wanted it to.
I have not heard of that at all.
Yeah, I just got the Blu-ray of it.
Okay.
It played last year at Fantasia, and I had wanted to see it at Fantasia, and I'd run a couple things on it on the site. And a couple of the people that were covering stuff for us had seen it at various festivals, so I had edited a whole bunch of stuff about it on the website, and I really wanted to check it out. But yeah, it was, if you're into kind of the war stuff, and especially if you're into like psychological horrors like Jacob's Ladder, it's definitely worth checking out. But it just, it didn't go as much as I wanted it to. And a lot of stuff did not happen for long stretches. Like, I felt like there was a lot more action that could be happening there because it is a war horror film, even if you are shoved inside of a tank the whole time.
Looks like some cool imagery.
Yeah, there was some really cool imagery in it.
Yeah. Well, thanks for
streaming on Netflix right now. That was Tank 432.
Interesting.
Brian.
I landed the Tales from the Hood Blu-ray.
Yes.
And I am going to declare that it is undoubtedly one of the best horror movies to come out of the 90s.
Nice.
Now,
I will agree with you.
It's a decade that often gets thrashed by horror fans. And when I was at Shock Till You Drop, I wrote a really early article about how the 90s actually delivered a lot of gems. And I think this is one of them. I always overlook Tales from the Hood. I don't know why. I remember I saw it opening night in New York when I was in film school, and maybe I was just being a pretentious film snob. I have no idea, but I was like, yeah, it's fine. Creepshow's better. But now, older, with new eyes, all the stories just work so well.
And the wraparound's very
strong.
Wraparound is epic.
Well, the wraparound's good. It's very good. It does what a
wraparound
needs to do, which is flawlessly carry you in thematically into every story and then somehow connect. Every story has its strengths. I think the last one, you start to get a little weary. I think it overstays its welcome just a little bit.
Which one's that? The one with the little...
That's the one that where the gang member gets picked up by a weird doctor. It's kind of like Alex from Clockwork Orange. He gets programmed or deprogrammed by strapping him into this chair, spinning him around, and showing him these really violent, real vile images of hate crimes and hangings, and it's just like. It goes on. It goes on for a good while where it starts to feel very uncomfortable, and it works in that regard. But when that story kicks in, it was like already riding such a great high of how good each story was that I go, oh my God, there's another story. What else can you uncover? What else can you tell? And as you get to the middle of that last segment, you go, okay, yeah, this is a pretty powerful story in and of itself. And then it kind of wraps up in a way that I didn't feel was satisfying. However, it ends on a great note. The wraparound, on a fantastic note. But it's a great ride. The Blu-ray from Scream Factory is fantastic. There's a great making of on there, and I loved revisiting Tales from the Hood.
Yeah, I checked that out. It's like an hour-long documentary, and Darren and the director delivered the infamous line right at the top of it. So you're like, yes, nice. And it looks great. Yeah. I know Darren was nervous because for years he didn't know if there was an HD version of it or original elements. So the blue looks great, and I love this. I think this is going to be one of those forgotten gems that's going to have a brand new life because of this Blu-ray, and that's cool. Yeah. Nice. Tales from the Hood.
Tales from the Hood.
All righty. For me, my last selection, I mentioned it at the tail end of last show, but I got the Phantasm box set, which came out from Well Go USA. At least here in America, that's who's putting it out. Arrow's doing the UK one.
Will they look the same?
No, I'm not really. The honest truth is I'm not really sure much. I know features will be different. Arrow comes in like a mausoleum-looking box, which is cool. And it's funny is that, because I wrote an article earlier the week on the site where I mentioned you, Elric, because about how we wanted to see the original on the big screen again or in high def, revisit that way. But look, the thing is, I don't have a preference, but it's like if it comes out in America, I want to buy the American version because that's my retail version. The only reason I have a multi-regional player is so I can get things that I cannot get here in America. That's like the whole point of it. But anyway, this set came out, and it is gorgeous. It is a beautiful set. It's 6 discs worth of stuff. It's all 5 movies. What's really cool is the actual box has like the ball and the number on the front. Or you can reverse the art, and it's the original theatrical poster, which is what I did immediately because I love that. Great little 120-page booklet. And just so many features. I only kind of diverted into some of the features here and there because there's so much stuff on there. Like they did some, Don Coscarelli and Michael Baldwin showed up to some car show. I don't even know the name of it, where they restore old cars. So this guy was a huge Phantasm fan and redid the Plymouth Cuda from the original, and it looks great. So like, there's so much fun stuff. There's an interview with Don and Angus from when the first movie came out, from 79 on like TV.
Oh my
So to
gosh.
see both of them as young as they are,
yeah.
there's like so much great stuff. And that was just the first one. They did new retrospectives for 3 and 4. And I mentioned this briefly, but 4 was really fascinating because when Don was on our show, he started telling us a lot about the Roger Avery version of Phantasm, the sequel that they would have done. So the first like 10 minutes of the Phantasm 4 doc is all about that. And it's the first time you get to see a lot of production art and hear a lot more of the details and see actual, visuals of what it would have been. And he's like, oh, Bruce Campbell was going to be the lead, him and Reggie in a movie together. Wow. It sounded amazing. But then I really love what they did with 4, which is he just had he found unused footage from 1 because he had spent so long making it that he literally crafted and wrote a movie around that footage that existed. So just to summarize, I mean, I ended up watching all 5 movies in a row. I didn't anticipate that. I just thought, I'll start with the first one and slowly work my way.
In a row?
Yeah, well, I mean, not all in one night.
Oh,
but
okay. I was going to say, that's like a day.
No, I pretty much watched one per night. Like, I kept watching them, and I just was in the mood to go to the next one. And the thing that's great about having all 5 together is it feels binge-worthy, and there's something about the storytelling that's it feels like the sort of thing you could marathon because it just constantly changes and evolves. And I'm just more fascinated with this series than I ever was because I still don't 100% get it. Right. There's, the sci-fi element, there's horror elements, there's things about it that I don't fully get. But every time I watch it, I'm always just taken aback by how rich and dense the storytelling is. And what's great, and I liked the last one quite a bit, despite the flaws of, budgetary flaws and things like that. Because when you watch them all in a row, you're literally seeing 40 years in the lives of all these characters, and you get to literally watch them age
that's pretty fun.
Throughout it. And I just thought the last one had this poignancy to it because Reggie's an old man in it. And there's this great scene with him and Angus, lying in bed together. Because at that point, by the 5th one, Reggie is either suffering from dementia and imagining everything, or he's actually part of that world, or maybe they're mirror images and these alternate timelines are starting to blend with each other. So I was just so fascinated, taken back by the series, and this set is great. It's great to have them all and getting, it's the sort of set that I'm going to be revisiting and going through for a lot. Over the next couple of years, it's like I'm always going to have stuff to check out in there. So
it seems like a series like the Hellraiser graphic novel they were doing that would really lend itself to that kind of, continuation of that world, in the comic book form. I think that'd be a cool story to explore in that way.
And also, I know it's an unpopular opinion, but I love 3. 3 is my favorite of the bunch.
I
love 3 because it's a statement of the 90s.
It's a very fun movie. I love the character of Rocky, who's like
she's plucky,
badass, and the little kid who's like straight out of like an R-rated Home Alone.
Yeah, that's what it feels like. Okay, we need the badass girl who's comedic. We need the Home Alone kid. It really does feel like just a product of the 90s where they were like, what's selling good right now? Smart-ass kids. Put one in the movie. And
But I also think of all, because, they are a little complicated to follow. Of all of the movies, if you were just to show somebody one of them and be like, this is basically what Phantasm is, I'd say 3, because 3 is like a lot of fun, and you could basically get the gist of what's going on.
You could get the gist, but I love 1 as its own movie.
Oh, yeah, no, 1 is terrific.
And 2 on an effects level is a blast.
Oh,
but it's definitely, you see, it's compromised in many ways. I mean, missing the actor from 1, he's so good,
Oh, yeah.
I love him it's one of my favorite kid performances, it really is, or like pre-teen performances.
Yeah.
I just love what he brings to that. And so it's fun when he comes back in the series, Baldwin, he comes back in the series in 3. Yeah, if I can ever afford it, if you're listening, sponsor, if I can ever afford your set, I'll take it.
Yeah, Phantasm. Yeah, definitely recommend it. Do you guys have anything else?
No,
I think we're good.
I've been reading a bunch, so I'll do some book reports next week.
All right. Well, this is going to be great because the one and only panel I got to catch at Monsterpalooza was for Cult of Chucky, and our guest was a part of that panel. So we're going to go grab him, and we'll resume after our sponsor.
So don't blob out.
One of the world's most popular franchises in the history of horror, the Phantasm film series has terrified fans for generations. WellGo USA Entertainment answers the prayers of those fans with the highly anticipated release of the Phantasm Collection, a 6-disc Blu-ray box set on sale now. All 5 films in Don Coscarelli's legendary horror franchise, plus a bonus disc, loaded with special features at Best Buy and Amazon.com now. Watch hours of never-before-seen material produced by Phantasm creator Don Coscarelli, featuring new interviews with cast and filmmakers as well as rare archival materials. The Phantasm collection comes with a Phantasm Compendium, a 120-page book featuring exclusive interviews and rare behind-the-scenes photos chronicling the history and impact of the franchise, and a 21 by 27 reversible poster. Don't miss the special limited edition Phantasm collection that has terrified fans for generations, available on Amazon and Best Buy. It's never over. Head on over to wellgousa.com for more information on Phantasm collection in stores and online now. Boy! All right, for this week's episode, I've brought on a very special guest who we just recently worked with here at Blumhouse on a film called Half to Death. And Chris Landon directed that film. And I think our guest has done some incredible work. He was one of those key special effects dudes that I always read about in the pages of Fangoria and Gorezone, and I'm happy to have him here. His name is Mr. Tony Gardner. Tony, welcome on.
Hey, thanks very much, and I guess I'll talk now.
That was
And
the
also,
best
Tony,
intro.
what is your key?
What a
to
great
and
intro.
Also,
I just wanted to listen to it. Just keep going.
Ryan.
I was just about to say, also, what is your key to looking so youthful? Because between you and Tony Timpone, who both shared the
the two
stage
Tonys.
at
Oh, my
Monsterpalooza,
Oh my God, yeah.
I swear they're just both like bathing in baby's blood.
Doing
Because
great.
they- you guys
I think we're
never
related,
age.
actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
We both subscribe to the same technique.
Now,
we
Tony,
can't talk.
I'd say enjoyment of what you do.
Yeah.
Because I
sure.
I
Or
literally
it's
got
just
to
being
see
around a
you.
lot of latex.
But
And I
getting
do
to
have
see
to-
you work, you looked like somebody, I think a lot of people get really jaded in this industry.
Oh, I'm still 12.
Yeah,
I mean,
you were helping somebody for nothing on maybe I shouldn't say that, otherwise everyone will call you, but helping somebody on a 30-second, good friend of mine, Dick Gerner, and you had the zeal and doing something that for you probably is so basic, these effects, but you had just totally, it was so fun to see, and it
was
made
fun to
us
do.
all have
Yeah.
fun. you
And
know?
I think that might be the connection, because Tony, having when I worked at Fango, I would go see movies with him. He still gets just as excited as like a 10-year-old.
Yeah.
When he's like moving around
Enjoy
in
what
his
you
seat.
do.
Yeah.
He also eats really well, I will say. So
I think that's actually part of it, to be serious for a moment.
yeah,
All right.
it's all about
well,
good eating.
Tony, you have a shop here in town called Alterian.
That is correct.
And you just wrapped up Half to Death. You wrapped up
Yeah.
Cult of Chucky.
Yeah. I'm really excited about
We
that.
just re-wrapped up Cult of Chucky.
Re-wrapped
Nice.
up Cult of
a
Chucky.
TV series we saw recently.
I-
The trailer
Oh.
to today.
Yeah.
Oh, The
Yeah.
Mist.
And The
yeah.
Mist. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, recently I swung by your office just to drop in and say hi, because I've never seen your office.
Swung
And
by
there was-
because you were in the neighborhood.
I was in the neighborhood all the way in
Nowheresville.
Where is it?
About
Where's
like,
Alterian?
it's like 30-minute drive outside town.
Oh, okay.
30, 35
Get to
minutes.
Pasadena, go like another 20 or 30 minutes, and we're there. If you go to
Must-
Raging Waters, you're still on the way to us.
Okay. Like I know
We're
a lot of
away.
the effects houses, usually I expect to go to Chatsworth. Like there's a ton out there.
we're out
You're
east.
the other way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
But what was fascinating to me is, even though I had followed your work for a very, very long time, there was still a lot of stuff that I did not realize that you've put your stamp on, such as the Daft Punk helmets.
yeah.
Dude,
Holy shit, you
I had
did this?
no idea.
That's like wow.
Yeah, exactly. And this is exactly how he reacted. He was like, "Yeah, I did that."
Do we know who they are yet? Has that come out?
He does.
I know you do.
we will by the end of today.
Who is
Yeah.
Daft Punk?
I will draw you a picture.
Let's tease the episode with that. We're going to
I'm
reveal.
going to reveal it because he did tell me off the Rob Bottin is one of them. So
Oh,
a lot of people have been wondering where Rob is. That is where Rob is.
Daft Punk.
Rob is Daft Punk.
Yeah, Steve
Steve
Johnson.
Johnson, side project.
Or it's Rob Bottin and Rick Baker.
Yeah, I'm down with either.
All right. Well, let's
It's
go.
like heart.
Both better helmets. Love it.
Well, let's go back, Tony. Let's
serious here.
get crazy. Let's go back, flashback, all the way to what year did you? Or you don't have to obviously specify
year?
what year, but at
Oh,
what
am I
age?
supposed to care what year?
No.
right.
What age did you start getting into the genre and start kind of getting into makeup effects? What was that trigger that really got you into everything?
Well, it was 1904, and this
They just built the railroad.
For.
Ought. I was trying not to show my age, but yes, it was ought for. I don't know. I mean, when I was a kid, I think the thing that actually got me, it kind of went in a super fast order. There was Star Wars, there was Planet of the Apes, then there was E.T., actually. I was dumbfounded that you could make something and make people believe it was alive. I thought that was pretty fascinating.
Is that Rimbaldi?
Yeah, Carlo.
Yeah,
Rimbaldi.
but it was actually Alien that really like pulled me in. I watched like Young Frankenstein and go to the theater and be that kid that just goes in the movie over and over and over and over. But I saw Alien and I realized it was a haunted house movie right off the bat. And I would just sit there and just wait just for those moments. And it wasn't like you could like pull it up on the internet or on a phone or anything. So it was like, I got to sit through the 20 minutes where they walk and talk and do that. And then I get to see the alien again. And then just buying books and trying to copy stuff. And I was that kid in the neighborhood that would do weird movies and get their friends to help them. And you'd stop motion animate creatures going down the street, chasing your friends or whatever. And I was building an animated spider, a spider I was going to animate that was about the size of a face hugger. I saw Alien, I decided to turn it into a face hugger. And then I realized you can actually copy the stuff that's in movies. You don't have to wait for a Halloween mask to come out or whatever. I mean, I lived in Ohio. There were no resources. But that's really what pulled me in. And that's also what got me started realizing I could actually make stuff, you know?
Do you remember which book it was that gave you the actual practical tools to be able to copy?
There was it's like a Cinemagic or something. There was a John Dodds creature on the front of it. It was red.
You don't have it anymore?
I might. I actually might have it in storage. I just found a bunch of stuff recently, and it's kind of an eye-opener.
Yeah, that's really cool.
When you were making these films with your friends at that age, was the effects side the thing that you gravitated towards the most, or did you just the